Hey YouTube, how's it going? Michael Johnson at Pristine Acupuncture and Wellness. Today is exciting because I get to talk about one of my specialties. Specialties being allergies. So I'm not only going to be talking about allergies, I'm also going to be talking about sensitivities and intolerances. And I wrote an excellent ebook that has this information and a whole bunch more. So if you're interested in that, just comment below saying that you want the book and I'll send it to you. So, what are allergies? You always think, you get in pollen or something, and then you start sneezing or coughing. Or you saw like my girl and you're like, oh no, like this is bad. What are allergies? So all it is it's your body's inappropriate immune response. So basically you have this inappropriate immune response to a substance that you shouldn't be having a response to. It's not like a poison where you're supposed to have a reaction to this thing that's destroying your body, or venom where you're supposed to have a reaction to this dangerous venom. Instead, your body has tagged this particular thing, pollen, could be grass, it could be wheat, it could be anything, and your body tags it as dangerous. And then the next time it comes into your body, then your body's like, oh no, freak out, and it releases all these histamines from mast cells, and all the histamines cause all these terrible reaction that you think of when you think of allergies. So sneezing, coughing, stuffy nose, your sore throat, your head's full, whatever, it can cause all those. And if you have a overreaction, so even more than that on the allergy scale, then you have an anaphylactic reaction, which is a go to the hospital, do not pass go, do not collect $200, because then you get this fluid accumulation. You'll get swelling in your throat and tongue. You can get fluid accumulation in your lungs, and it becomes very hard to get a breath and to breathe. And at that point, you're going to need epinephrine, you're going to need steroids, you're going to need stuff to rescue you at that point. But most people aren't dealing with that, and if they do, they know what that is. If you have that kind of allergy to peanut, you have that reaction to peanuts, and you avoid peanuts, I'm assuming. But most people, it's more of just you take antihistamines, right? Because that's what you do. So, you have the histamine response. A lot of people don't know this. Histamines is this response to allergies. Antihistamines dampen the histamine response. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few. So that's allergies. And that is mediated by IgE, immunoglobulin. So, but then there's also sensitivities. So you could get a scratch test on your back. And whenever you get this scratch test, they will prick you or scratch you with all these different substances, and then your back will look like a road map if you're really allergic, of like all this redness. But what can happen is you get the scratch test, nothing happens, and the doctor tells you you're fine. You're not fine. You're not fine, but you don't have a true allergy to these things. You have a sensitivity. So it's not the same pathways. You have your allergic response pathways. These are different pathways, but you still have reactions. So you can have, long-term fatigue, stuffiness, that sort of thing, because it's basically modulated in a different way in your body. It's not called an allergy, but you still have sensitivity to it. The other part of that is a lot of times antihistamines will not help as much with this, or at all, because it's not a true allergy. So that's sensitivity. Intolerance, something that is really hard to get treated for because you're just missing the enzyme. Lactose intolerance is the biggest one people know. Like if you take the enzyme for lactose, then you don't get as sick because your body can digest it. Otherwise, your body just purges because it's like, freak out. We don't have a way to break this down. Flush everything. And it flushes unpleasantly, very unpleasantly. And that can happen to people with any kind of intolerance. And so you take enzymes or you avoid those substances. So that's kind of the basics: allergies, sensitivities, intolerances, and of course in a short time span. So what do we do about those? Well, the first one is you avoid them, right? So if you have major allergy, they tell you to avoid that allergy. Unfortunately, there's certain things you can't avoid. If you ever try to go outside in the summer and say, pollen, you aren't going to get me, then it's not going to happen. Pollen is going to get you. My middle child used to have a pretty bad allergy to mosquitoes. And everybody gets a little bit of a reaction. He would get like huge red welts from mosquitoes, and we got really worried about them because it was a pretty severe allergic reaction, and we had to give them allergy medicine and all that. So you can't always avoid it, but that's usually the first step. Another step is, medication. So, which is typical, right? There's different kinds of antihistamines. I always tell people, if you're going to take one, do not take Benadryl unless you're prescribed by your doctor. Don't take Benadryl as your first line, because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and it has a ton of side effects. I like Zyrtec a lot if you're going to take a medication, because Zyrtec does not cross the blood-brain barrier. It has a lot less side effect a lot less side effects in general. So I suggest Zyrtec if somebody has to take medication. Even I'll occasionally take Zyrtec when I'm having allergy symptoms, though not as often as I used to, because I've gotten help, but that is something you can do. So those are kind of some of the Western medical. Another one is allergy shots, where they give you a series of shots over a long period of time, sometimes years, to desensitize your body to these allergens. That's a possibility. For sensitivities, there's not a lot to do other than just avoid from the Western standpoint. So some natural stuff you can do for these conditions. This is really important stuff that you can do at home. I'm not going to tell you to avoid. Isn't that funny? I was about to say avoid. Some things you can't avoid. Now, if you can, and it's bad, avoid it. If you need help, make sure you go see a doctor. I'm going to preface. But there are things you can do at home. For one thing is to have a safe space. I know those are dangerous words, but safe space. This is important. So you can have a room. You have your room or the living room, and you keep the door closed in there. Let's say your room. Keep the door closed. You keep a HEPA filter running 24/7 in that room, and you make sure that when you go in there, you do not have whatever allergen you're allergic to. Let's say it's an outdoor allergen. Let's say it's pollen. You don't have that pollen on you. So you've showered, you change, you have fresh clothes in your bedroom, and you have the HEPA filter running. That's your safe spot. So what you do is you have this spot, and it helps a lot. Something else you can do is you can get stinging nettle, pills, supplements. And stinging nettle is terrific for allergies. It's been shown in multiple studies to be highly, highly effective for allergies, especially for histamine response. So that's a really good one. Butterbur is another supplement that's really, really good. CoQ10. These are all things that you can get. Quercetin. Quercetin's really good. These are things you can get in supplement stores or order online. And it can absolutely help treat your allergies if you don't want to take a medication or get the shots. These are things you can do at home. Another thing that can help is acupuncture, especially a specific technique called NAET, which is an allergy elimination technique where you're basically desensitizing to these different substances without a lot of the negative side effects. It uses some acupressure, it uses some massage, and then acupuncture as well. So that's something that can absolutely help with allergies, and that one helps also with sensitivities. Another thing that can help for a lot of people is just drinking more water, honestly, like good, clean water, because you're flushing the body. That can help as well. So these are all things that you can do for allergies, sensitivities. For intolerances, there's not a lot naturally you can do other than enzymes. So, and enzymes aren't going to hurt you. It's just something that you can do if you know you have a lactose intolerance. Then you can absolutely treat that, or treat it. You can help it with those enzymes. But there's not a lot naturally that I've seen to be really effective for that. Another thing I didn't mention, dandelion tea. So if you're not allergic to flowers, this is important. You can actually make a dandelion tea and drink it multiple times a day, and it can absolutely help with any kind of allergy. So that's mostly for allergies. Sensitivities outside of acupuncture and NAET, there's not a ton you can do, but just stuff to avoid those substances and build up your immune system. So Michael Johnson, Pristine Acupuncture and Wellness. Feel free to let me know if you need that book, and it's really nice seeing y'all today. Tune in next week.